Okay, so I think we should be live now. Let me just confirm that we are indeed live so that we can begin. Okay, yeah, we are live. So hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream as well. And today I think I'm just going to be finishing what we began in our Figma design in the part 1, where you can find it in the videos tab. And I left a link to the GitHub repository in the title, but I'm just going to show you how you can clone it so that we can all be on the same page. Okay, so the last time we built this header, we built the showcase, the homepage, and we were building this out, but then I had to stop the stream abruptly, so we're just going to continue from right where we left off. Okay, so I already have Visual Studio Code and I already have my workspace open, and as well I have my server running. And just to get to this part, I'm just going to let me just save this first of all, and then let me close this down, and then I'm just going to exit it, and then probably exit this, and then I'm just going to begin from 0 so that we can all be on the same page. So the first thing that I'm going to do is open my terminal, which on Windows is the command prompt, and then just zoom in, and then I'm going to CD into my desktop, because the desktop is where I want my application to live. Now the link to the GitHub repository is, as I'm going to type it out, it's https / and github.com/stthomas/home home monitor landing page.git. And now, because I want to clone this repository into my desktop, I have to say git clone, like that, which will basically clone this folder into my desktop. And once it's finished, this will run, and then I'm just going to say cd into that folder. So I'm going to cd into home monitor landing page, like that, and then just open Visual Studio Code by saying code dot, like that, which will basically now open up my application in Visual Studio Code, as you can see right there, looking very nice, and it has everything that we did up to last time, up to our 4-cut grid. Now, because I don't want to do okay, you know what, let me just do it right in here, which it might take a while, but I'm not going to run it. You'll notice that if I try to run npm start immediately, then it will throw me an error. And the reason for that, the reason for the error, is because I don't have my node modules. So technically npm doesn't know what to run in order to start the server, as you can see right there, where it says React scripts is not recognized as an internal or external command. So in order to fix that, you should first install the node modules, and you can do that by saying npm install, which will basically install the node modules for you. And then once this finishes running, then you can now you can now run npm start, which will now install which will now run your development server for you. Now my internet isn't all that fast, so I don't want this to run, because I already have this the folder on my desktop. So I'm just going to stop it right away, and then I'm going to open my terminal once again, and I'm going to cd into my desktop, and I'm going to cd into my folder called home-monitor, which is basically my application, and then I'm just going to open Visual Studio Code into that folder. Now this is basically for me, right, because this is what I've called it in my desktop. So you don't have to do this. Instead, you should run npm install, which will install the node modules for you, and then you can now run npm start. So I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to close this down as well. And then once I do this, now I want to run my development server right away. You can say I have my node modules installed and everything else, really. And the reason for this ESLint cache saying it's been modified is because I was running my development server already. So I'm just going to say npm start, which should start my dev server. on localhost 3000, and then we can begin our actual programming. Now, last time we were doing some listings where we had our 4-card grid, and let's see, this varies with the time it takes to start. I don't know why it does that for me, but guess we can just wait just a bit. Now, I was talking about, we were making a 4-card grid, and you can see I prepared all the data beforehand just so we can do everything continuously, so to say. And I have my Figma design open somewhere. Where is it? Is it here? Okay, here it is. So I have my Figma design open. So this is what I'm talking about. We had our grid right there. So this is 1, 2, and 3, and 4. So this is basically what we did. And now we need to add the colors and add a flexbox here, and then add the heart icon on each of the images. And then we can move on to Safe Haven, and then to this testimonials section, and then finally the blog posts, and then this section, and then finally the footer. So I hope this can run faster. I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube, so I guess I'm going to have the timestamps, so you can just skip forward if you would like, or you can just fast forward by yourself, whichever is easier for you. Let me place this to the side. And remember, we were using Tailwind CSS in our application, and because we were using Tailwind CSS, then I don't really have a CSS file except the index CSS, which has basically the font that we're going to be using, that actually we're already using, really, as you can see. And then it has a bunch of variables here that I'm beginning to realize I don't even know why I have them, but it's mostly for things like this, for the tags and everything. Let me close this. Okay, so our dev server is running. It's still loading. As you can see, it's still loading, but then I think we can just continue. Where was I? With this is position relative, and the reason why I have this position relative is because I want my heart icon, which isn't here. Did I import it? Yes, the bootstrap heart. I want my heart icon to be positioned as absolute within the grid. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that this is for desktop, the desktop version. As you can see, it looks horrible on smaller screens. So I'm just going to be building the desktop version, and then if we have time, then I'm going to also make the mobile version, but that's not really a priority for me right now. So I'm just going to be making the desktop version, and then probably in another stream we can make the what's it called, the mobile version. Okay, so I'm just going to have this full screen, and then we can begin working on this to display all of this as flex and all of this. Now let me just go through this so that you can see where we get our data. If you go to your application and you go to listings JS, the component, you'll find that we are importing data from and listings. If you go into that folder, you'll find all of this is here, and we're using UUID so that we can generate unique IDs for each of our items. And then we have our location right there, and our phone number, and our location and everything. Now the location is basically this, as you can tell, and the phone number is this, but then I want this to be aligned in row form because it's a flex box, as you can see. Where was it? Right here. So we want something like this. So I'm going to go back into my application, and then I'm going to go into my component, which is capital L listings, and then I need to find where I have my location marker, which is basically this. And remember, this is an icon, and then this is the text that we're getting from our data, this right here. So just so it doesn't confuse you once I display the paragraph, so this should have a class name of flex, and once I save that, because I'm using Tailwind, you'll notice that it should go to, really, okay, there you go, it goes immediately into a row, as you can see right there. And then I want to add item center so that this can just push down just a bit. So I'm going to say items center. Now you'll notice that this as well as this will have the same styling, but I'm just doing it for one, and then I'm going to copy paste it for the other so that you can just see what's happening really and it doesn't confuse you. Okay, and then I'm going to add some spacing on the location mic on the icon, because I can't add it to the paragraph, because technically the paragraph is all of this. So if I were to add a margin on the paragraph, then it wouldn't really work. So for my icon, inside the location marker for the icon, I'm going to give this a class name of a tailwind class name of margin right of 3, which should space it out like that. And then I need to change the color for this to yellow. So I'm going to say on the location marker, I want the text to be yellow with a shade of about 500. We should change it like that. That's too dark, maybe. Let's say 400. Yeah, 400 is much better. And then I want to make it just bigger, just a bit, like in our design. So I'm going to say let's say text dash XL, right, and then I want to change the text color for this, for the paragraph. Let's see what's the text color right here. It's purple. Let's see if I go into the paragraph and say text purple, let me say about 400. How does this look? Nope. Let's say 900. That looks better, manageable. And then let me just reduce it to a small text, so text small, like that. And then I need to make this bigger. Let me just do that before I forget. It's in it's the title, right? It's the title. Give this a class name of text dash XL, make it bigger like that, and then push this down away from these two icons. So inside this div, I'm going to say margin bottom of 4, which will push it down like that. And then I need to add a hover effect on this, not really a hover effect, but some text decoration on this so that it has an underline. So I'm going to go into this paragraph of details. Remember, this is the details, so I'm going to say give this a class name of underline, and then just make it smaller, so text small, which should, okay, there you go. And then obviously, because I want this to behave like a link, remember I only have it as a paragraph because this is technically not going anywhere, but I want it to behave as a link, so I want a cursor of pointer on it. So I'm going to go back inside here and just say cursor pointer like that, and there we go. So it now behaves like a link, even though it's technically a paragraph. Okay, so once we do this, then I just want to copy paste all the styles that I have on this onto this phone icon. So I'm just going to say you know what, let me just copy this and just paste it inside here, and then grab this and paste it inside there. Once I save that, then it should look like that. Okay, looking nice, but then I want this to separate out just a bit. So I'm going to go inside this, the first paragraph that I have, and I'm going to say margin bottom of 3, which should now separate it out just a bit. As you can see, looking very nice. Now the last thing that we need to do in this section is just add the heart icon. Let me show you. We need to add this heart icon on each of our images, which I have I've already imported it as BS heart from React Icons, meaning it's coming from Bootstrap. So right at the bottom, let me see what's this div. It's this one. Okay, so right at the bottom of this, I just want to display a div. Oops, I want to display a div with the Bootstrap heart like that. And then I'm going to style this div out and position it absolute inside the images. Remember, our parent divs are positioned relative, so we can position everything else absolute inside the current div, because it will be taking up only the space of the div. So once I do that, the first thing that I want to do actually is, as you can see, our icon appears. So I just want to style it out just a bit, so I'm going to give this a class name of bg yellow, bg dash yellow dash 300. Is that what I want? Let me say inline block. Let's see how this behaves. Like that. Let me give it a padding on the y, of let's say actually padding all round of 2. We should add a padding like that, and then just say rounded full so that it's circular like that. This doesn't look all that nice. I've just zoomed in, that's why this breaks just a bit. Let's see, let me say padding on the y of 2 and padding on the x of 3. Nope, that's too rectangular. Let me just have it a padding of 2 all around, then zoom out like that. And then now I want to position this as absolute within this, so right away I'm just going to give this a class of absolute, and notice what happens. It should go already it's outside the normal flow of the grids that we have. It's already outside the normal flow, so I want to position top of 0, which will now bring it to the top like that, and then I want it positioned to the right of 0, which would bring it right there, as you can see. Now this is not exactly what I want. I want it to position right somewhere there inside the image. So in Tailwind you can do that by saying write 2, 4, 6, 8 or 10. So I'm just going to say write 2 and top 2 as well. Let's see how this looks. Oops, that's too small. Let me say 6. Let's see how 6 looks. Almost. Let me say a right. Is that correct? Let me say both of them should be 8. Yeah, I think that's much better. Let's look at the design. That's much better. Probably the icon can be bigger, so let me just do that. On the height icon right there, I'm going to give this a class name of text XL, which should increase the size of this right there. Looking nice, looking nice. So that's basically it for this section. And then the next section that I want to do is about safe haven. So let me just confirm that I indeed have my data array for safe haven. Where was it? Was it about? Oops. Was it about? Okay, this might be a problem. This might be a problem. Let me see. It should be about. Let me just confirm that my images for about 1 should be this. Okay, yeah, this is about 1, which means about 2 should be the image that we have. Okay, so this will be our data array. So if you go into about.js, this is the data array that we're going to be using for our next session, which is the about safe haven. So let me just do that, and I'm going to create a new component inside my components folder, and I'm going to call it about.js. Just simple like that, easy to remember. And then I'm going to say RAFCE, and if you're wondering how I'm able to do that, it's coming from an extension called ES7 React Redux GraphQL and React Native Snippets. So this extension right here, once you install it, then you'll be able to do some shorthand properties while using React. And what I've just done is basically where is it? This is RCC, so RAFCE should be somewhere here, which means basically it's a React arrow function component, and it exports it as default. So you will need this extension because it's it really just cuts down the time that you need to keep on writing this over and over again, so for every component that you have. So if you don't want to do that, you can just remove this and just say RAFCE if you want an arrow function component, or if you don't want that, if you want a class component, you can just say RCC like that, and it generates a class component for you. But I don't really like using class components. If you watched any of my other videos, I like using function components. So RAFCE will generate a function component for you, and then I just want to return an empty fragment first of all with an H. Let me say an H2 saying about safe haven, which is the title right there. And then I want to get my data, which has all of these images. So right away, that's the wrong tab. Right away, I'm going to say import. Let me just confirm what I named it. Inside my data about.js, did I give it a default export? Yes. So I'm going to say import data from should be coming from data / about, like that. And because this is local data, I want to use the use state hook, so I need to import it. So import use state from React, and then set up my state values, which I'm going to call let me just call them images, and set images for the function that controls the image variable. And this will be coming from use state, and the default is going to be my data, which I've just imported right there. And then once I get this, if you are to console log the images, let me just show you. Let me just console log the images. Once I console log this, then what I technically should see in my console is basically all of this. But I won't be seeing UUID. Instead, I'll be seeing the ID that is generated from UUID. So let's see how this looks. Let me open my my thingy here. It's taking so long to load. I think I'm stressing up my computer just a bit. Okay, nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? Why does nothing happen, by the way? Okay, nothing happens because I've just remembered this needs to be imported in app.js. So let me just do that. Let me copy this down and change this to about, and then just render it and say about, so that now we can log it to the console, as you can see right there. And if I were to just expand this just up a bit, you'll notice that now we have 4 values, as you can see, 1 2 3 4, because it's an array, so that's counting from 0. And we have a unique ID, which is generated from UUID, and then we have our image, which is basically the same to the part in the image that we have right there. And then it's basically all that for all our 4 images, like that, as you can see. Now what I want to do is get this from the console and then display it into my screen. So let me close this down, and I'm going to say in my about.js, I want to get these images, and I want to loop over these images and then extract the data that is available in my data array. So because this is an array, we can do some array methods on it. So below this, I'm going to return a section, and inside this section, because I'm now going into JavaScript, I want to place some curly brackets, and I'm going to say images.map. So map is an array method, and I'm going to say for every image in my array, I want to get and destructure some data. I want to destructure the ID and the image, which is basically the 2 objects that we have inside right there. So all of this will be coming from image, which is the variable that I've declared right here. And then I want to set up my return, and I want to return a div with the key of ID. Remember, because map is technically returning a list, so every list in React should have a unique key, which is basically should be usually, let me say usually, it's the ID. Okay, and then once I get the ID, then I want to return an image, and the source for this will be the image that we have just destructured right there. So image, and then in case it fails to load, I'm just going to say grid card, like that. And let me save this, and we should see something on the screen. Okay, so this has the same name as this, so we don't want that. So let me say let me change this to path. Oops, really? Okay, you know what, that's quite a bit to do, because I will have to change this out once again. So instead, let me change this to img and this to img, and we should now see something on the screen right there. So you can see that we have about safe haven, and then we have our first image, our second image, our third, and our fourth image. So now we just need to style it out like this to look like this, which shouldn't be that hard of a challenge to do. So right away, why do I keep doing that? Right away, let me just remember what type of padding I have on each of these sides, so that I can place it on this as well. So I'm going to say on this section, give this a class name of padding on the x of 20, so padding on the left and right, which is still little, so this should be 32, I think, was it right there, 32. and then I just want to copy this and paste it inside this so that this also moves inwards like that. And then right inside the H2 once again, because I want the H2 to move away from this just a bit. Let me see how much. It's quite a bit, so I'm going to say let me have padding on the top of the H2 of 56, which should move it down. That's too much. Let me just say 32. 32 should be enough like that. And then let me have padding on the bottom of 10, which should move it away from this image like that. And then I'm going to say text 6XL, which should make it bigger like that, looking nice. And then let me just deal with this grid now. So for the grid, notice that the grid is technically inside here, but then what I want to do is I want to place this inside a div, so that I can now go inside this parent div right here, give this a class name of grid, and say grid columns to be 2. Let me add a grid gap as well of 10. Let me see how this looks. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. And the reason why nothing happens is because I'm displaying this wrongly. This shouldn't be here. It should be here. But it will break some things, as you can see. It will break just a bit, just a bit. So what I'm going to do instead is remove this div, and I'm going to remove this div, and then remember that we have some kind of text inside here, which is quite a bit. I'm not really sure whether the best thing to do is to just paste it inside here as a paragraph. I'm not quite sure. Can't I select it? Really? This is Figma, right? Can't I really select this? Let me just place it to the side. Okay, you know what? Instead of writing all this, I'm just going to generate some lorem ipsum. I'm just going to generate some lorem ipsum. Let's say lorem 50, and then another paragraph saying lorem 20. Now, in case you're wondering, the lorem command comes installed with VS Code because it comes installed with Emmet as well. So you can just do lorem and any number that you want. So lorem 500, which will generate 500 words for you of lorem ipsum, as you can see. But we don't want 500, we just want about 20 or 30. And we should see this, which is not the correct thing. Okay, so let me grab these two paragraphs and let me place them inside a div. And you know what? That still will not work. That still will not work. And let me just show you why it won't work. If I save that, you'll notice that it's technically still returning the same thing. But we don't want these paragraphs to be on the images. We don't want these paragraphs to be on the images. So what we want is to grab this. I want to grab this and then just push it down outside of my return statement right here. So let me save that, and we should see this right there looking very nice, looking very nice. Something's still not right. The styling here will probably be quite a problem. The styling here will be quite a problem. Let me see, what can we do? I need to remove this from here first of all. Let me see what flex does on this. Nothing, it does nothing. 32, not 33. Flex does nothing on this. What about on this class name of flex? Still nothing. I'm still not sure how I want to style this out. I'm still quite not sure. I can decide to do something very cheesy here, but I'm trying to avoid it. Instead of using use state, okay, you know what, let me just try it. There's no harm in trying. Instead of using use state, I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to say, what do I want to say? This is a section. I'm going to return a div, and I need to import all the 4 images that I have, but I can't import them from the source folder, from the public folder, sorry. So I need to grab them. So copy this, and then I need to place them inside my source folder, which is basically this. And I have an images folder in my source, and I'm just going to paste them inside here, where I'm going to say import img1 from coming from images / about -1.png. Then just copy this down 4 times, change this to 2, change this to 3, and this to 4. And then inside this div, I'm going to return another div with the image and the source coming from img1 like that. And then I'm going to grab this and just copy it 3 more times. So 1 to 3, change this to 2, this to 3, and this to 4. And then I can say on this div, give this a class name of flex, which should now do this. But I don't want a flex, so I want to say grid, and then grid columns to be 2, which will do this. And then I want this div as well as this div to be inside a parent div, so grab all of that. Actually, no, it's already inside the section, so I can just do it on the section. And I'm going to say display this as grid, and grid columns to be 2 as well, which should now place the paragraph like that. Look at that, look at that. And now basically what I want to do is just change up there's no grid gap. Let me add a grid gap of 10. Why isn't this? You know what, it's because right here I need to add a grid gap of 10 on the images, which should now separate them out like that. Let me just rearrange these images. I want this to be the first image, and then this to be the second. Wait, how is it aligned? Oh, you know what, this is perfectly fine. But then I can say, let me say item center. Is it item center? What's the grid class for item center? No, that's not it. That is not it. Place item center, place content center, nodcave.com/tailwind. Let's say items center, place items center. That's the class for it. So place items center. Let's see how this looks. It's still looking horrible. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this for now. I'm just going to leave it as it is. Let me add a grid gap of 5 instead, so that they're not so far apart. And then I'm going to take this second image and display it as the first image, so this should come here. And then I'm going to take this third image and display it as the second image, so this should come at the top like that. And then this should be like that, just so that we can have a little semblance of an order right there. And then now I need to target these paragraphs. And first of all, let me add a bit of padding on the bottom so that I can be able to scroll down just a bit. So inside my section, I'm going to say padding bottom of 10, which just push it above just a bit. And then let's see how our paragraph looks. Oh, we need to also add this. Okay, so I'm going to say, why do I do that? Come on. So I'm going to say inside my paragraph, right here, actually both of them, so I'm going to target both of them. Give this a class name of text purple dash 900. Okay, let me say font bold, margin bottom of 3 or 4, separate it just a bit. Let me say text to be extra large, like that. Font bold isn't really good right there, so let me remove it like that. And then let's add the grid for these areas covered and whatnot. So to do that, let me close this down, and I need to say we need to add the grid for this. Should I add it manually or should I add it dynamically? Let me do it manually first, and then we'll see whether I can do it dynamically. So oops, you know what, this section, if I were to add it inside this section, it would disrupt this grid just a bit. So I want to put it in the same section as the paragraphs because it's technically just below the paragraphs. So below the paragraphs, I'm going to say return another div with an h3. What did I have at the top? An h2. Okay, so an h3 that says 345, and then below this a paragraph saying areas covered, and then just do the same, return another h3. Styling this will be quite an issue, so what I need to do is place this inside a div, so that, because technically headings and paragraphs are block elements, so I want that when I display flex on this or grid on this, I don't want the paragraphs inside to be affected. Instead, I only want the individual divs. So I should also place this inside another div with an h3 that says 4656 property listing. So 4656, that's not where I want it. I want it inside the h3, so 4656 656, and say paragraph saying property listing, and then return another div, and the final div with an h3 that says 45 agents. So 45 and another paragraph that says agents, like that. And as you can tell, these are all styled the same way, so I just want to do all of this once. So I'm going to say inside this h3, grab this h3 as well and this h3 as well. I want a class name of font bold and text XL and margin bottom of 3. Okay, and then inside these paragraphs, I want a class name of just remember they didn't change the text color for the headings. I'm going to do that. So text purple dash 900, and then I'm going to say text large. Let me go inside the h2 and just say text purple 900 as well. And then inside the main div now, so inside this div, I'm going to say give this a class name of flex items center and justify center as well. Let's save that. Let's see how this looks. And we have this. Okay, this is too large. So let me just remove this and say text extra small. Really, this should be okay. Now let me just leave the default size. Okay, let me remove this as well, and remove this as well. Was Flexbox really a good idea for this? Where is it? Right here. Let me not use Flexbox. Let me say grid, and grid columns to be 3, like that, and then place items center, which should do that. Okay, looking very nice. And then let me just say text center as well, so that they center the text like that. And then this margin on the bottom is too large for this, so let me say margin bottom of 1. push it up just a bit, and then text XL is too small for this, so I'm going to say text for XL, not, that's too small still. Let's say 6XL, make it just a bit bigger, and then that's looking nice, looking very nice. What else do we need to do? I realize that this color isn't really this is the darker version of purple, but I don't really mind having it like this. Actually, what color did I give this? Oh, I know what I did. What I did was that in my CSS, I have this defined like this. So what I need to do instead in my about.js is remove this. So remove this text purple. So remove this, and wait a minute. Did I have it for the paragraph as well? No, I didn't have it for the paragraph. So I'm going to say grab this. Okay, grab this, and finally this, and remove it. And there we go. So it uses the purple that I want. Okay, looking very nice. Now the next thing that we need to do is this section, which is basically a testimonial section, and it actually scrolls, but I'm not really it actually scrolls, but I'm not really good with image sliders, so I'm not going to do the slider. Instead, I'm just going to create the design for this this section first, and then we can go over to the blog post. And actually, what I'm thinking is that I do the blog post first, because it is much easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the blog post first. So let me just go back into my application, and I'm going to create a new component and call this blog.js, and I'm going to say RAFCE once again. And remember that in my data I have blog.js, which is basically all the data that we need. As you can see, all the data for this, the date, the tags, and the title, as well as the image, which is basically all of this. So inside my blog.js component, I need to import that data. So I'm going to say import, did I give it a default export? Okay, nice. So I'm just going to import it as data from, it's coming from data, and it's called blog, like that. And remember, because it's a JavaScript file, then I don't need to include the extension like blog.js. And then I need to import my use state, and then set up my state values. So I'm going to say call this posts and set posts. This is coming from use state, and I'm using my data by default, and then return a fragment, and then a section right here like that, and then return an h2 that says blog posts. And then inside this section, then I need to map over my data, which is basically like we did in about.js, where we console logged, and then we could see our data. And then once we map over our data, which is now stored in the posts variable, then we can now destructure it. As you can see, we can destructure all this, and then we can now choose how to display it. So because we're going back to JavaScript, I need to add a curly bracket right there and say posts.map. And then for every post, I want to grab the ID, the image, the description, the title, as well as, oh, there's no title. What am I doing? There's no title. We just have the date, right? So the ID, image, description, the tag, and date. The tag and date. So tag, date, and this will be stored in our post right there. And then I need to set up my return. This has confused me. Wait a minute. Okay, and then I need to set up my return, where I'm going to return a div, and like we're returning a list, so we need to have a unique key prop, and the unique key in this case is the ID, because it's unique for every ID, for every object, as you can see. And then each of this, I'm going to say what I want to do. I want to first return the image, and the source for this will be the image, of course. And then we need to return an h4 saying the description, which is basically the title. And then I want to return a div with two small tags, and the first small tag will say the tag of the blog post, and the second small tag will say the date. And the reason why, actually, not instead of returning small, let me just return a paragraph, because it will be easier, because they are block elements by default. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to display this as flex. So I'm going to give this a class name right away of flex, and items center and justify between, so that they will go end to end just like this. And then for this h4, I'm going to give this a class name of what? Of font bold. I'm going to say font bold. I'm going to say text XL. And then finally, I want to add the border on each one of this. And remember, the image also has a border radius around it. So let me do that. So I'm going to say right inside here, give this a class name of rounded dash large, which will add a border radius. And then inside this div, so the parent div, I'm going to give this a class name of padding on the x of what? Let's say 4. And then let me just add a border, so border like that. And then padding on the y of 5. Let's see how this looks. Save that, and nothing appears because I need to import this inside my app.js. So copy this down, grab this, say blog, and then just render it by saying blog like that. And we should see this right there, looking nice. And you can see we have the border. excuse me, we have the border, we have our tag, and we have the date, as you can see, because it's justified between. And yeah, looking very nice. Okay, not really very nice, but you get the drift. So what I want to do now is just add the default padding that I have of 32 on each of this. So I'm going to go inside my blog post, inside this. Actually, you know what, for the h2 I can just copy what I have in about. Let me just see. I can just copy this and paste it inside here, and then just change this to blog posts. And then I'm going to go into this section, give this a class name of padding on the x of 32, which should now push it inwards. So we have blog posts. This is too large text. Let's say text XL. Nope, 4XL dash 4XL, so that we have that. Is this space really necessary? Okay, it's necessary. So that we have this, and we have all of this. And then I want this to display as a grid with grid columns of each of them 3, and then give a grid gap of 10, which should now place them like that. So looking very nice. And then you'll notice that these images, they don't take up the entire space. So to fix that, I'm going to go into my image right there and just say width full like that. And then let me add a border radius on the border, which is basically this right here, and I'm going to say rounded large, and we'll have that. So we have a border radius looking nice. And then let me add actually, this text is too large. It's let me see what an h4 looks like. That's looking fine, really. Let me add what's it called, a margin on the top of the header as well as the bottom. So I'm going to say margin on the y, so on the y-axis on the top and bottom of 5. No, 5 is too large. Let me say 2. Okay, and then for the tag, I want this tag to have a class name of text extra small. Let me say text medium. Oh wait, there's no text medium. There's extra small, and then there's small. Okay, so small is fine, as well as this. Let me copy this and paste it inside this, which should reduce the size of the date as well. And then the date has a color, so I'm going to say text purple of, let me just say 900, which is basically what we've been doing all along. Okay, Okay, so what I want to do is I want to add the background color for each of these, and I'm not going to do it in Tailwind. Instead, I'm going to do it in my default index CSS file. So what I want to do is I want to give this tag, I want to give this a class name of tag, so that I can target it, really not rag but tag, so that I can target it in my index CSS. So inside this, I'm going to say I want to target the class of tag, and because you'll notice that each of these have different colors, what I want to do, uh, oh sorry, what I meant to say is you'll notice that the images first of all are repeating. So the property tag has the same color of green, the housing tag has the same color of purple, and then the mortgage tag has the color of orange. So what I want to do is basically target this grid and give this the same color of the tag, and then I want to target this and this, give it the same color, and then target this and this and give it the same color. And if you can hear some noise, that's basically the wind outside. So why do I keep doing that? I need to separate that tab. Okay, so for the tag, I'm going to say I want to target what do I want to do? I want to target, but will this work? How do you target pseudo elements? Let me go back to this and give this a class of blog so that I can then target this paragraph. So let me save that, and then I'm going to say the class of blog, I want to target the class of tag, and then I want the first child which is basically this first section, and then I want to target the first and the second, third, fourth, and then the fifth. So I can do that by saying blog and target tag, and then I want to target the nth child, and the nth child of this will be the fifth one, just like that. Give this a background color of did I have a green right here? Did I have it? That's okay, let me just say green. Let me say the text color should be, is there a dark green? And then let me have a padding of 2 pixels on the top and bottom and 4 pixels on the left and right. And then let me have a border radius of the variable border radius that I have, which is basically at the top somewhere right there, of 5 pixels. So let me save that. Let me see how this looks. Save this. Let me see how this looks. Does it work? Oops, it doesn't work. This has a class of blog, right? And then the class of blog, I'm targeting the tag, right? You know, let me just see whether this is working. Let me say tag font size 72 pixels. Okay, it's working. Okay, it's working. So maybe I'm targeting this wrongly. Nth child fifth. Let's see. Let me see, tag background color red. Okay, so there's something that I'm doing wrong here. Okay, so let me say selecting elements using you know what, CSS pseudo classes and elements. W3 scrolls opens first, and no, I want the pseudo class. This is visited link, no, hover, first child. So what was I doing wrong? Paragraph first child. I want the nth child. Where's the nth child? So nth child of n, right? Let me try this again. Let me remove this. let me just have the tag instead. Okay, there you go. Okay, so this works, so I don't even really need this class, so let me remove this, and then I don't need this anymore. Wait, this isn't right. I only want to target the first child, so let me see nth child. Okay, I know, I've realized why it doesn't work. The reason why it doesn't work is because technically um, there's only one element with the class of tag. That's why it doesn't work. Okay, so this really won't work, so let me just remove it. Excuse me. Let me just remove it, and then I'm going to give all of this some default styling. So I'm going to say background of, let me say, bg gray dash 200. Let me say text gray dash 900, padding on the x of 2, padding on the y of 1, and let me have a rounded of large. Let me see how this looks. The background color, oh, this isn't right. It should be bg gray, and so that we have that. Okay, that's a good enough for what we're dealing with currently. And now that we are done with the blog post, I can close this down. Now that we are done with the blog posts, all I need to do is now just add this, because remember, this is technically an image. I have this as an image first of all, but then it should have the functionality to click on this and it takes you to Google Play, and this should take you to App Store. But I'm not going to do that right now, so instead what I'm going to do is, let me close this, and this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new component. So inside my components folder, create a new file and call this mobile.js, and then say RAFCE, and then I'm going to import the image. So import design, let me say design img. It's coming from images, and it is called, do I have it? Not that one, nope, mobile app. It's called mobile app. Mobile app dot, it's a dot what, dot png. Let me see that. Let me turn a fragment, and then let me turn a div with an image tag, and the source for this will be the design img, which I've just imported. So let me save that, and let's see how this looks. And nothing happens because I keep on forgetting to import it in my app.js. So mobile like that, and we have this right there. So all I want to do is now just place this to the center. So I'm going to go into mobile.js, give this a class name of, let me say, padding on the top, or not on the top but on the y-axis of, let's say, 10, and then text center, which should now center it, or not. I can go inside this image, give this a class name of block, and then margin x of auto, which should center it now, like that. And then let me say padding on the top of 20 and padding on the bottom of 10, so that it just increases the padding just a bit on the top. And once I do this, you'll notice that it's basically it's not really a hard thing to do right there. So what I want to do is now add the footer. And wait a minute, did I have my data for the footer? I do not. Oh wait, this is the components. I need to check in data. Oh no, I don't. Okay, I'm just going to create a new footer.js, and I'm going to import v4 as UUID version 4, coming from UUID, which is my package that we installed to manage our IDs. And I'm going to say const data, or let me just say links. Oh no, you know what, let me say data, so that I can use links as my state values in my component, and then export default data like that, and say UUID v4. I'm basically creating my data array that we are going to be using for the footer, which is this right here, because I don't want to type this all out into one single component, because it will become too hard to manage if you wanted to change the links, for example. So first of all, I need the titles, which is basically this, and then I need the links. So I'm going to say title, and the first title is safe haven, and let me say links. Now for links, I want to place this inside an array. So links is y safe haven for sale for rent, y safe haven, and then for sale, and then for rent. And I'm going to show you how you can display this, because this is technically an array inside an object, which is inside another array. It's not really difficult, but it's basically the same concept as you would map over your data. So this is UUID v4 once again. The title for this is legal, so legal, like that. And I'm going to say links, an array, really, terms and conditions, and then privacy policy and cookies. Privacy policy, really, and cookies, like that. And then the third one should say ID, UUID v4, oops, really, oh my god. And then say title. The title for this is get in touch, get in touch. And then the links for this will be info at safehaven.com, and then let me just have a random number plus 234 123 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, and then let's say resources. Oops, no, that's not correct. This should be inside another object, ID UUID v4, and say title for this is resources, and then say links. Links, the first one should be become an agent and blog, become an agent, and then blog, and then go to the bottom of this and use the final one, so UUID v4. Why do I keep doing that? Title, and say follow us Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Follow us. Set this links Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Okay, that was hard to watch, but okay. So once we have our data like that, then we can go and create a component called footer.js. Remember, now this is a capital F because it's a component, and I'm going to say RAFCE, and I need to import use state at the top, and then I need to import the data that we've just created. So import data from, it's coming from data, and it's called footer, and then set up my state values, and I'm going to say footer links and set footer links. This will be coming from use state, and I'm going to pass it my data as default. So once I do that, I want to return a footer element, an HTML5 element, like that, and I want to map over my footer data, right? So I'm going to say footer links dot map, and for every, let me say FL because it's easier, I want to get destructure a few items, and I want to destructure the ID, title, and links. So ID, title, and links. This will be coming from FL, and then once I do that, once I do that, I want to set up my return, and I'm going to be returning let's say a div, of course, with the key of ID, And then once we set up our div like that, then I want to return an h4 that says the title. And then remember that this is an array, so if I were to say that do something like ul and then set up list items like that and say links, then technically nothing will display on the screen. And just to show you that that is possible, I'm just going to save it and then copy this down, change this to footer, change this to footer like that, and we will have this. Okay, it's technically possible, but then you see what happens. This is what happens. It appears as though it is a string. So what I want to do instead is inside my component footer, I'm going to say right inside here, I'm going to say links dot map, and then for every link I want to get I want to return an list item. This is sometimes confusing for me as well. So a list item, and the key for this list item, because basically all of this text is unique for every object that you have. So the key can be the link, and then I just want to display the link as well. And as you can see, you can set up multiple return statements in our React application. So once I save that, then we should now see this, because this is technically what we want to see. And then of course you can as well set this up inside an href, for example, if you would want. Really an href, you want an href, you can set this up inside an href, and then you can just display it like that, but I don't want to do that, so I just want to return this. Okay, and then I'm going to style it up to look like a link. Now the first thing that I want to do, of course, is remove the bullets. So I'm going to go into my index CSS, and I'm just going to say that for the list items, the list style type should be none. We should remove the list items, but it doesn't work because this should be list items like that. And then I can go back into my footer and I can now begin to style it. So I'm going to say give this a class name of flex items center and justify between like that. So we will have this, and I need to add a padding, so the same padding that I have that I've always had for my application right there. So I'm going to say padding on the X of 32, so on the left and right of 32 like that. And then is it really 32? Let me just say 42 because it's the footer. So okay, 40 not 42 like that. And then let me add padding on the Y of 20 like that. Let me see how this looks. Okay, it's just a plain color like that. And then once I do that, what I want to do is add the icon. Remember, we have the icon as well, so I can do that by just importing the icon first of all. So I'm going to say import footer icon. Okay, let me just call it icon. From, it should be in images called logo. Let me just confirm it, logo.png, right? So logo.png. And I was saying now, because this is not a JavaScript file, then we need to include the full extension for it. Okay, so once I do that, then I want to just go below this and return a div with an image tag, and the source for this will be our footer icon that we've just imported. So save that, and it should appear right there, looking nice. But then you'll notice that it has some kind of zigzag feeling to it, and the reason for that is because of item center. So you can just remove it, and it should now go all the way to the top like that. And then let me just space this out, space the links out just a bit. So I'm going to go into my let me turn a UL for this. So UL like that, it's much easier to manage, so that I can say give this a class name of no, what am I doing? Not like that. Inside this list item, so give this a class name of margin on the Y of 3, which will separate them out like that. And then let me say text small, reduce the size, and then let me say text gray, and let me say 500. Okay, 500 looking nice. And let me say tracking wide. And tracking wide, what tracking wide does is that it increases the letter spacing. So just like that, looking very nice, looking very nice. I feel nice. Okay, so what we are remaining with is basically the testimonial section that I didn't do. So let me just do the testimonial, and I can go into my components folder, create a new file called testimonial JS, and inside this testimonial I'm going to say RAFCE once again. Oops. And before I forget, let me just import it right away. And testimonial is before blog, so I'm just going to grab this and say testimonial, and then just render it down as testimonial. But remember, I want it to appear before blog, so I need to place it above blog like that. So let me save that, and then return an empty fragment for this, and return, let me see what the text says, word on the street. So I'm going to return an h2, and I'm going to go into my about.js, and I'm going to copy this h2 and then just paste it inside here, and change this to word on the street, and then change this to 4XL so that it's smaller, 4XL, like that. And then remember that I need to import this image that we're going to use, and this image is called testimonial PNG, right? So I'm going to say import test image from, it's coming from images, and it's called testimonial.png. Okay, so once I do this, then I want let me see, how do I want to structure this? I want to return a section, right? And then the first section, okay, I know why this is blank. It's blank because I technically saved app.js before I saved testimonial.js. So let me just confirm how this looks. It has some text here, and then the name. So for the text, I'm just going to use lorem ipsum once again. So for the text, I'm going to return first of all a div with a paragraph that says lorem 50, like that. And then below this paragraph, I'm going to have an h3 that says the name Jijilaye, like that. And then below this, I'm going to have a paragraph that says Lagos, Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, like that. And then I'm going to now place the image. So right inside here, not inside this div really, but outside this div, I'm going to have my image that is called test img, like that. So let me save this, and you should notice that now application works, and we will have the testimonial section looking horrendous like this. So what I want to do excuse me, my voice is going out a bit. So what I want to do is just basically have this inside a background color, and then just place this absolute inside this section. So I'm going to give this section a class name of relative, like that, and then this should have a class name of absolute, like that. And then inside this div, I'm going to give this div a class name of bg purple, and let me say bg purple 700, and I'm going to say is the text color white? Nope, it's not. I'm going to say padding on the y should be 20. Okay, so this goes to the end, so I'm going to say padding on the x should be 32. Okay, and then once this is positioned absolute, I want it to position to the right of 0 and to the top of 10. Let's see how this looks. Let me save that, and we have this. Okay. Now I don't want this image to go all the way to the end, not the image, sorry, but the background color. So what I want to do is inside this div, I want to give this, limit this width to about 9/12, which is 75% of the screen, and that happens, that's looking horrible. So let me say a half, and this will happen. Half isn't really that, right? So let me say 75%. Oh wait, 75% is what I was doing. What is 66%? Two-thirds. So two-thirds, like that, like that. And then let me go inside this paragraph. So give this a class name of width of a half. So this half width is technically a half of what we'll have here. So once I save this, you'll notice that the paragraph goes just a bit wonky. And let me just say two-thirds, so that the width of the paragraph is going to be two-thirds of this two-thirds div. I don't know whether that makes sense. Okay, basically what it means is that because this is two-thirds, once you have the paragraph inside this div, the paragraph technically takes up 100% of the two-thirds. So once you give this a width of two-thirds, it will take up two-thirds of the 100%, which is basically this. I hope that makes sense really. If it doesn't make sense, just write it on in the chat and I'll try to explain it better. 50 actually is too much. Let me reduce this. Let me see. Okay, you know what? It's fine. Let me just reduce the text. So I'm going to say text small dash small. No, that's too small. For this paragraph, let me add a margin bottom of 5. Separate this out just a bit, and then I'm going to target this h3. Give this a class name of text for Excel, like that. Let me see how this looks. Okay, this purple is hurting my eyes. Let me say gray, and let me say 400. Is gray good enough? Nope, it's not. Let's say 200. Yeah, 200 is looking nice. How about 300? Okay, let's just leave it at 300. We can stay here looking at colors all day long. And then inside, for this paragraph with Legos, I'm going to give this a class name of uppercase, which will transform it into uppercase, like that. And then just say margin top of 1, separate it out from the name, like that. Let's say 2. Okay, remove this so that the text isn't really all that much. And then this is quite big. I can reduce it just a bit by saying 2XL. Yeah, 2XL looks nice. And basically we just need to now fix this so that it doesn't go all the way overlapping into this. So what I want to do is, first of all, let me see how this looks. Okay, that looks nice. So what I want to do is let me see, I'm going to add a padding either on this section of the testimonial, or I'm going to add a padding on the top on the blog posts. So let me just see if I can add it on the testimonial first of all, which is now basically on the section. So I'm going to say padding bottom of, let me say 56. We should really push it down massively, but 56 isn't really all that much because I want this to separate it out just a bit more. Because if you were to take a ruler, really you'll notice that it's not really separated, and I don't like, I want to have a bit more space. So let me just remember the classes for this. Let me say 72. Yeah, 72 looks fine. Okay, so once we have this padding of 72, now what's missing is just basically this button, right? So this button, where do I add this button? Should I add it inside this? No, but then if I were to add it inside this, it will have a background color. I don't want that to happen. So instead, what I'm going to do, give them guys, let me just receive a phone call. I'm going to be muted. Okay, I am back. Sorry for that. I was just receiving a phone call. Okay, so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to add a paragraph below this, and I'm going to say read more. Not really a paragraph. What I'm saying, this is a button, and then it should appear right there. Okay, so once I do this, let me try and cheat this a bit. Let me see if I can add a div and add a button, which should break my application. I'm expecting it to, but it doesn't, which is nice. So inside this button, I'm going to say give this a class name of bg purple dash 900 and text white and font bold and uppercase, and it should do this. And then let me say padding y of 2, padding x of 4, and rounded of full, which should do that. And then inside this div, I'm going to give this a class name of text center and margin top of 20, which should now oops, that's not what I wanted. Instead, I'm going to say padding on the x of 32, which will just move it inside right there. Look at that, look at that, looking nice, looking nice. This is not read more, this is read story, like that. Okay, and then let me add some padding on the x as well. On this, let me say padding x of 10, and then let me add padding y of 4, like that. Okay, looking nice, looking nice. I think that's basically it for really for this landing page. And I've just realized view all blog posts is here. Yep, I think that is basically it. I think we've done everything. Let me just add this view all blog posts. I can go back into my blog right there, and then I can take this and place this inside a div like that, and then add a paragraph here that says view all blog posts. Now remember, I'm using paragraphs because these links don't technically go anywhere, but if you're on a real project, always use the semantic elements to refer to whatever you're doing. For example, if you are placing a link, then use an anchor tag or the link from react.dom. If you're having a button, use a button. If you're having a paragraph, use a paragraph. If it's a section, use a section, and just don't put divs everywhere. So once I have this, then I'm going to copy, let me see, I'm going to copy this, grab this, give this a class name of doing that, which should now basically be the same thing except with this. And then I'm going to go inside the div that I've just created, give this class of flex items center and justify between, which should now take this to the end right there. Okay, let me see how this looks. Actually, that's really all of it. So once I have this, now the last thing that I want to do, let me just confirm that I don't have any of this. So in listings.js, I need to disable something right here because I'm not using it. So right inside here, I'm going to say, place a comment and say ESLint disable next line. And then in footer.js, let me see if I can just copy this, go in footer.js, place this right there. And then in blog.js, I'm going to copy this and place it above that. And then in navbar.js, place this there. And then in about.js, it says used it is defined but never used. In about.js, oh, that is the data that I imported but never used. So I can remove this, I can remove this, and I can remove the use state like that, which should now clear up our console, and it should say compile successfully. Now the reason for that is because I want to deploy this to Netlify. So once we're done with that, because we're not technical, I'm not really going to add okay, currently I'm not going to add the mobile version for this, so I can just close this down, and I'm going to say git add all so that I can commit my changes to GitHub. And I'm going to say git commit -m, and I'm going to say homepage complete, and then I'm going to say git push, so it pushes that to GitHub. just wait till it pushes, and then once it does, then I can visit this link, which should open up my repository. So I can now close this down, and we have that. So 10 days ago and 21 seconds ago. So this is basically what we've been doing, and that's all really. So this design, last time I was building this design, someone asked me whether I created it myself. I did not actually. This design is from one of the people that I follow on Twitter, and I asked them to send it to me because I wanted to create the desktop version for it instead of a Figma file for it. So that's basically what this is, and the Twitter handle is at THE. Let me just try and remember it. The Twitter handle is at underscore THE. I think that's how it should be. This is the Twitter handle. You can follow them on Twitter, and you can as well follow me on Twitter as well at TSB Sankara. Okay, so that would be it basically for this, and I hope you really enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in another video, as well as I'm going to be uploading this to YouTube as well, so remember to head to YouTube as well and leave a like and subscribe and leave a comment, really any comment that you would want. It really helps out a bit, and remember to subscribe as well. So I'm going to be going offline now, and I will see you in the next video and in the next stream.